she got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in Mexico like a paradise.
Oh yeah, it's the Q&A. That music makes you think of one Jeremy Betts rolling down the boulevard in a convertible and just bobbing his head. That's what that music means. But no, he is on assignment right now. My name is Brian Anthony Davis here from the Steel Curtain Network, part of Fans First Sports Network. And this is monumental for me because we have been working together here when it was behind the Steel Curtain and Steel Curtain Network for a long time. But Andrew Wilbar and I have been on shows together when it was a panel, but we have never teamed up. So I am the Hall to his oats. Actually, he's going to answer more questions. So he is the Simon to my Garfunkel as we get going. Andrew Wilbar, the pride of Michigan. What is up, my friend?
Hey, it's going well. I'm looking forward to it. This is the first time I think we've ever done a show together, so I'm looking forward to it. Always enjoy listening to you all on the preview. It's an honor to come on after you all today talking some Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, man, I tell you what, and I'm not trying to wax your car because you already like me, so I don't have to try to flatter you. But here's the thing, man, your knowledge, I absolutely love your knowledge, especially when it comes to prospects. And you look at different things that I do as far as players. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. A lot of people just heard all of my thoughts. So these questions are for Andrew, or if you have something different that I didn't cover on the preview, you can ask me as well. But get those questions in. I'm really excited for it. And thank you all for double dipping with us tonight. We have, my gosh, those eyes that are looking in on the show, they're adding up. That's fantastic. But the very first thing that I want to ask you, Andrew Wilbar, is what are the true expectations going forward for the Steelers? You know, we saw that game last week and Russell Wilson came in and Dave Schofield kind of warned us. Remember, it's just one sample size, but there's a lot of excitement with the offense averaging 23 points per game and feeling that it's going to get more and more and hopefully get towards 30. Do you think this is an offensive renaissance, and what are your expectations going forward?
I think that with Russell Wilson, it definitely affects the passing game much more, especially over the middle of the field. It was an encouragement seeing the tight ends more involved. It was encouraging seeing George Pickens more involved and them actually finding ways to get him the football, scheming up ways. We talked a lot about last year when Matt Canada was the OC, and they never really moved Pickens around a whole lot. They never made specific plays or a specific effort to try to scheme him open. In the past couple of weeks, we've started to see that. And this past week with Russell Wilson, especially, George Pickens was a big part of the game plan. You could see it by the way they moved him around, the way they designed routes for him to be able to get open, be able to get the ball down the field. That was huge for the offense. And I still think that the Steelers lose a little bit in the running game as it pertains to Justin Fields now being on the bench. But I definitely think Russell Wilson proved that he's not a washed quarterback. He was not bad last year in Denver. It wasn't necessarily his play that got him out of Denver. It was his inability to get along with Sean Payton. So if he can maintain good relationships here in Pittsburgh, he's got a chance to really shine and take this team somewhere. And he fits the offensive system to a T. It's very similar to what he had in Seattle. And I think that only bodes well for the team going forward.
Andrew, it's my contention that last week against the New York Jets, when you only saw 19 yards from Russell Wilson, I just felt like, I don't think it was a lack of effort from the team, but I felt like the team, the offense on the field, did not completely believe in him. I thought in the second half that they were completely in sync. And I really felt that he won over that team with his play in the second, third, and fourth quarters of that game. Do you feel that this team believes so much more? And this does not show poorly on Justin Fields. It's just a different feel of an offense. And I think it fits the personality of this team more and more.
I do. And once the Steelers created a couple splash plays on the defense, that first interception was when you could really tell the spirit of the team changed. They were able to put the ball in the end zone, in the red zone, which is something that they've struggled to do going back to last year before that, even going back to really the time of Randy Fichtner. This offense has struggled to punch it in once they're inside the red zone. And Russell Wilson was able to put touch on passes. That's something we hadn't seen in a while. And Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks as it pertains to carrying positive momentum. and being able to bring a team and kind of creating that clutch factor when the moment is big in key situations, being able to make a key throw and put it right on the money. That's something that, as much as I like Justin Fields, and I would not have been opposed to him remaining the starter, that was an area where he sometimes struggled. He has great arm strength, but his touch was missing a lot. And when you think about his time in Seattle with Russell Wilson, the 12 man, and just the crowd energy that they had there, when the crowd got into it, Russell Wilson's personality changed. He just took over that team as a leader, and it's like he just needs that little additional bit of encouragement to really get over the hump, especially coming back from an injury. And I think once everyone was getting into it, once the fans were into it, once the players were into it, like you were mentioning, just the attitude of the team changed. Russell Wilson, you could just see his confidence grow so much in just that short period of time. And I think that is huge for him. The defense being able to come up with big play and then them being able to get it in once in the red zone, I think really changed the trajectory for the rest of the game. And I think it changes the trajectory moving forward as well.
I absolutely believe you are 100% correct there. Please go ahead and get your questions in. This is your show. This is your time to go ahead and ask questions without the benefit of a super chat. We will never mind if you go ahead and give us a super chat. That's fine. But I'm not on the street corner with a saxophone and a coffee cup. So here we go. Brian Brown. Andrew, do you think Daniel Jones will survive the Steelers' pass rush without having to leave the game?
I think he could if the Steelers do not send additional blitz. Jeremy mentioned a really good point on the Steelers fix this past week, and he was talking about how, especially when the Steelers are in their 4-man fronts, the Steelers are not doing a good job of helping out TJ Watt. Everyone else is getting the one-on-ones, but as it pertains to Watt, they're not finding ways to get him out. He's lining up sometimes all the way out in like a 9 tech, and then other times he's playing as a down lineman, but they're not doing anything. They're not moving him around either. Maybe the Steelers should consider moving him to the other side for a couple drives, and maybe swapping him and Highsmith, making the defense think a little bit, because they're not really doing a whole lot in terms of adding extra help to TJ Watt's side. He's always going to garner the attention, but he hasn't had quite as big of an impact in the pass rush department the last couple weeks in terms of getting home, because the Steelers haven't done really anything, adding in an additional blitzer. If you're going to put TJ Watt out at the 9 tech to try to avoid some of these chip blocks from the tight ends and making them go all the way around, perhaps have Peyton Wilson come on inside linebacker blitz or something like that to try to shoot the gap. The Steelers haven't been doing much of that. And I mean, Terrell Austin has done great with the secondary. He's done a great job with it. But there is a little bit left to be desired in terms of the pass rush and the creativity there. And that's an area the Steelers need to improve in. I think that with the offensive line that the Giants have and the struggles they've been having, there's no guarantee, obviously, with Daniel Jones, but I do think the Steelers need to up their game a little bit in terms of the schematic standpoint as it pertains to pass rush.
Well, I'm going to ask you this, because when you look at the quarterbacks that the Steelers have faced this season, we have, of course, Kirk Cousins, then Bo Nix, who is mobile. Then you have, well, of course, up in Los Angeles, Herbert, who could not move in that game. He was like playing on a bad ankle. Then you throw in who you thought was going to be Richardson, who is mobile, and then it became Flacco, who's not. In the 5th game, you're looking at Dak, who is not really mobile anymore as much as he used to be. And then Aiden O'Connell, can run a little bit, but, he's more of a pocket passer. And then last week, Aaron Rodgers, you throw in a guy, Daniel Jones, that could get out of trouble with his legs, right?
Yeah.
How does that change the whole game plan on defense?
I think if you can get him outside the pocket, maybe you try to create more interior pressure, more stunts, sending the inside linebackers on blitzes, whether it be Queen, whether it be Peyton Wilson, sending more pressure up the middle and forcing him outside the pocket to where either Watt or Highsmith can get loose. And we know how great a closing speed that both of those guys have, monitoring the injury to Nick Herbig as well. But all this pass rushes the Steelers have know how to close quickly on the quarterback. They have great closing speed, that great final burst to bring the quarterback down. It's just a matter of getting loose, getting off their blocks, and maybe sending some more interior pressure this week and forcing Jones outside the pocket is the way to do it.
Daniel Red a great fan of the show as well as Brian Brown. Great question. Brian Brown is Joe Burrow's #1 fan, by the way. And Daniel Red says, "Hey Andrew, do you think Darnell Washington will get more than 4 attempts?"
He could. He's done well with everything the Steelers have asked him to do. Arthur Smith, we know how much he likes to get the tight end involved, and it definitely appears after one game that maybe the reason the tight ends weren't as involved as we expected was because Fields is not the most confident passer over the middle of the field. He prefers throwing outside the numbers. Russell Wilson is more of an outside the numbers guy too, but we see even in the later years of his career when he had other guys, even think going back to even the time of Jimmy Graham, when he had Jimmy Graham for a short time, that was the first time period in his career where he had a tight end that actually had some receiving skills. And then Will Dissly comes in, more of a blocking tight end, but ended up becoming a better receiver once he got into the league. And Russell Wilson had a solid connection with him. I think toward the end of his career, he's had a little bit more of a connection with his tight ends over the middle of the field. He likes having that big body, that secure guy over the middle of the field. And I think this gives the Steelers an opportunity now to be able to target the middle of the field more, which should only open up more opportunities for George Pickens, who doesn't have a whole lot of help at the receiver position right now.
There was another tight end in the last 5 or 6 years before Dissly, between Dissly and Graham, and he wasn't that bad. He was actually half decent, but not a big name tight end. But I would love to try to remember who that is. If anybody knows who that is, please let me know, because there's somebody else on my mind too. But I really feel that you're correct here, that with Freiermuth, with Darnell Washington, even Connor Hayward, he has some guys that are going to really help him out, and they could be great safety valves for Mr. Wilson. So let's go ahead and keep on going with this. Another great fan of our network is Afton Ford. Asking, do you think for the 3rd week in a row that the Steelers will put up more than 30 points this week? I picked them to score 27.
I think that's a good number right there. I wouldn't put money on it. I think it's possible. The Giants have some injuries in the secondary. Their pass rush is not great. They have Ojulari. They have a couple other pieces, but not any consistent pass rush outside of their defensive line. They really generate most of their pressure off of just the size that defensive line takes up. And I think the Steelers, based upon last week, it's still going to be a big test for McCollum. But he did a great job this past week against the Jets, all things considered, in the situation that he was put into. I didn't have a highest expectation for him, but he really overachieved, in my opinion, this past week. If that interior can hold up, and Wilson has time to throw, the secondary is not going to be able to hold up very long. They've improved at the safety position. Corner is very suspect. They're going to need to address corner this offseason. So I think that when you're looking at the Giants, that there's holes at each level of the defense. They haven't been, to an extent, as terrible as what they had maybe been the past couple seasons. But based upon the fact that the Steelers are just playing the Jets defense, that even though they had their own injuries, were still a very solid unit. Russell Wilson was able to pick them apart in the second half once they got tired. The Steelers established that ground game early. It's definitely possible.
All right, Afton double dips here and gives us $2 from the tip jar. Thank you so much for the super chat, Afton. Did Beanie turn a corner, or was it a fluke?
I'm going to say mentally he turned a corner. His confidence is going to go way up after those 2 interceptions. Now, everyone saw on that second interception, he was out of position in his zone. He was way too shallow in his zone. It was just he was in the right place at the right time to be able to come up with that interception. His coverage still struggles at times, but I think a lot of Steelers fans forget that there's another nickel corner the Steelers had that was a fan favorite, but wasn't exactly the greatest in coverage. Was a great blitzer. He was good in run defense, but he wasn't great in coverage either at times, and that was Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton got better as time went on in coverage and became one of the best nickel corners in all of football. And I think if Steelers fans are patient with Beanie Bishop, he can do the exact same. He's been inconsistent in coverage. There have been games where he's done a little bit better, especially right at the very beginning of the season. As of late, slumped off a little bit, but those 2 interceptions are going to do wonders for his confidence. And the fact that he was doing it in a game where much of the game he was covering guys, there were a couple of instances where he had to cover Garrett Wilson, one of the premier receivers in the league. And I think just getting over that mental block, like, I'm doing this. I just made 2 huge plays and changed the total spirit. We talked about how it changed the attitude of this team. I, an undrafted free agent, was able to change the attitude of this team on a defense that has Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, all these stars. I made a huge impact in this game, even if my play wasn't perfect other than that, even though if I was kind of out of position on one of these plays. It's I know that I can do this now. I think it's going to help his confidence a lot, and he's not going to second guess himself in coverage. So from that aspect, yes, I'm not ready to say that he's going to be flawless in coverage going forward, but it's definitely going to help him in terms of going forward, having that confident mindset and trusting his skills.
Incredible analysis, Andrew. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We are going to go ahead and take a break. We will be back right after this. Please go ahead and get all of your questions in here. It is your show, so we are here to answer your questions. Stick around. We'll be back right after this on the Steelers Q&A special edition here on the Fans First Sports Network.
Riding on cloud nine, we are living the good life. It's a good life. Living the good life. It's a good life. Living the good life. We do it right overseas, looking nice. Room service, if I like, I order twice. Hibachi, got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in Mexico like a paradise.
All right, we are back. It is fantastic to have you with us. It is the Steel Curtain Network. This is the Q&A. Jeremy Betts is on assignment. He will be back next week as well. So stick around. You'll be hearing plenty of Jerome B for all of your Pittsburgh Steeler needs. We miss him. I'm glad to fill his chair here. So nice to have Andrew Wilbar once again. The first time we've had a chance to be mano a mano together here and do a show together. So this is a pleasure for me because I've been a great fan of Andrew for a long time and really glad to share the microphone with you, Andrew.
It's been great. I so much appreciate all that you do here, especially in the podcast end, but everything you do at Steel Curtain Network Fans for Sports, it's much appreciated.
Well, thank you. Let's go ahead. Let's keep this going. We've got more Brian Brown. Do you think the Steelers will shadow Daniel Jones? He's a fast QB if the turf monster doesn't reach up and grab him. We talked about this a little earlier, and this is a guy that got pulled last week for Drew Lock, but it doesn't seem like there's a quarterback controversy yet in New York. But do you think the Steelers, we talked about his speed earlier on, do you think it will be a shadow situation?
It could be. I'm still not to the point where I'm never going to get to the point where if the team is determining should we even start this guy because of his poor play, I'm not going to be overly concerned about it. Obviously, the Steelers are still going to be planning on going against Daniel Jones, not Drew Lock, but I'm not necessarily concerned about any skill set that player has. If this defense that is a top unit, one of the top units in the league, cannot limit Daniel Jones, whether it be through the air or through the ground, there's bigger problems than Daniel Jones or Daniel Jones even having an up night, having a good night. This team has a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the ball, offensive line, skill positions. There's talks about they could potentially trade Darius Slayton. What's going to happen with all that? There's a lot of drama in New York. The Steelers, there's never an easy win in the NFL, but the Steelers should be able to walk in and regardless of how the offense plays, be able to win this game by defense, force Daniel Jones into mistakes. They can play a lot of underneath zone coverage, should be able to force some mistakes through the air. But again, it comes back, I think, to pressuring him from the interior, forcing him outside the pocket. And I think that will help loose the edge rushers, Highsmith and Watt.
Youngin Woodburning, do you think Watt was sick or his pec was hurting him last game? He wasn't grabbing his face mask before getting ready, and he rarely was getting into his three-point stance.
It's an interesting observation. I honestly couldn't say one way or the other. I think it does come back to scheme a little bit. The Steelers are putting him in the same spot every time. He's either lining up as a down lineman in his 3-point, or he's playing out as the 9 tech, and he's going the long way around the quarterback. And really, both edge rushers are doing that. And there's nothing that isn't vanilla about what the Steelers are doing up front. It's very predictable. He's getting double and triple teamed on every play. He's getting chipped. He's just not getting any help over there. The Steelers have to find a way to free him up. If that means moving him around, coming on a pressure to the interior on a stunt, or having him swap sides with Highsmith, that could be it. I don't know that it was necessarily because he was sick. His effort was still there. He was still he looked just as athletic as ever, in my opinion. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. Maybe you have a different opinion on that. But I thought he looked like normal TJ Watt. It's just he's not getting any help right now.
Now, I did not notice that. I think that is a fantastic observation, but it's nothing that I noticed. I just feel like he is getting, with all the chipping that he is taking right now, that it's he's not getting to the quarterback. But I also don't think they were rushing the quarterback because they didn't need to with the quarterbacks that they had there that they've been playing, especially a guy like Kirk Cousins in week 1 is going to kill you. And that's what Mike Tomlin said in the press conference afterwards. Same with a guy like Aaron Rodgers. But when you look at the fact that he was in his face a couple of times, that big pass block, that was a big deal. You see a lot. There was a lot of ways that TJ Watt had a huge impact on this game without taking down a quarterback. Wouldn't you agree?
I would. I mean, that in and of itself, having to require that much attention should be freeing up more people. And I guess that would be a challenge to the remaining defensive line. We've seen Cam Hayward come on a little bit more in that area. Get Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, Alex Highsmith. It's time to step up, especially Alex Highsmith. Being able to get home for a couple more sacks. He needs to be able to come and finish on some of these because he's getting all the one-on-ones. I think that's really more than anything a challenge to the remainder of that front 4 or 5 guys. Because Watt, regardless of whether he gets home or not, if you have to have 3 guys on him, that he is serving his purpose by being out there, regardless of whether he's fully healthy or not. If a defense is requiring, and if it takes that much attention by an offense to be able to limit Watt to the extent that he's been limited the past couple of weeks, then he's doing his job just by being out there. Somebody else has to step up to the plate.
MK says, who else would love to see Highsmith actually get a sack in this game? It's not a question, it's a comment, but I'm bringing that up. And I felt like he was getting the TJ Watt treatment against the New York Jets. He was getting held a lot in this game, and they were not getting called.
There were a lot of things not being called, especially holding. I 100% agree. I don't know what. I was actually looking at there was some statistic. I don't remember where I had seen this. Maybe it was even in our Slack channel. That the officiating crew that was officiating that game has called more penalties in terms of like plus or minus against the home team this entire season. The home teams, they have penalized a lot more than the road team, which I thought was an interesting stat. But I'm not I do agree there's been a lot. And it's very frustrating when you have a defense that is as good as the Steelers and you know how much potential this pass rush has. And you see on a weekly basis how much these defenders, especially on the edge, are being held. It's not being called. It's the unfortunate part of the NFL. When you are an elite defender, all the cards are stacked against you, from the rules to the refs just not being a little bit more lenient with those defending them. It's a tough situation. I agree.
All right, Dennis Pavlak. I think George Pickens is going to continue to go off this week because Russ throws a better deep ball. Your opinion?
I 100% agree. He's with Fields, it was never about the strength, it was about the touch. And even on a couple of those throws, Russell Wilson underthrew them, but Pickens has the ability to come back to the ball. And as long as you don't have an underneath defender trailing the wide receiver, you're a lot of times there's going to be a pass interference flag called because the receiver has to come back to it. So especially when Russell Wilson sees man covered, one-on-one coverage, you've got to throw it up for Pickens because 80% of the time he's going to come down with it if you put it in that vicinity. And over half the other 20% is going to be pass interference calls. So the Steelers do need to get him the ball. I think this is big for him. And he's another player that you could see his attitude changing. I don't know if anyone's gone back to watch all of his snaps as it pertains to being a blocker, but he definitely seemed to show a lot more effort on the outside as a blocker now that he is getting the ball. I'm not saying that's the mature thing to do, is only show effort as a blocker when you're getting the ball and when you're doing well. But it definitely seemed to help George Pickens' confidence, being able to connect on a couple passes. And he definitely seemed to be showing a little bit more effort out there as well, as was the remainder of the offense.
All right, this one's not one you can answer here, but I'm going to bring it up. Brian Brown, is Cordman Tommy, who is He's already in the live chat. I don't think Jerry Cherry, and by the way, I got a chance to meet Jerry Cherry this summer. Fantastic guy. It was so great to meet him. Wonderful to my family. He was actually in an ABBA cover band, and it was absolutely fantastic to see him. But Brian Brown wants to know if these guys are going to play Renegade on their axes in the fourth quarter. I tell you what, I would love to see Jerry, and I don't know much about Cordman Tommy, but I'm sure he's pretty good too. If they win the Super Bowl, you guys have to promise to go ahead and play Renegade on our show, and I might even sing with you. How about that?
Bonus.
Young and wood burning just asked the question, hey Bad, you losing weight, bro? It looks like you are. Nice work. Thank you. I'm trying. I'm not where I need to be yet. I'm also wearing black. It's more slimming and I got a haircut, but I'm trying. I got to get healthy for the family and for my Steelers family here too. Let's go ahead and keep on going here. Just a lot of great comments, and we do appreciate everybody here. Daniel Red. Should the O-line hold and tackle Dexter Lawrence to bring attention to this emoji?
Why not? Why not? If the refs aren't calling anything like they weren't last week, sure, just go for it. What would your philosophy be, Bad?
Yeah, I think that goes back to bite you if you do that. But hey, why not? Here's a question for me here. Thomas Riley, and Thomas Riley, a big fan of the show. Every time the Steelers win, he throws in that win number. So fantastic. Bad. What are the odds that the Steelers can bring back both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields for next season? I think the odds are slim on that. I want to get Andrew's opinion on that. The reason I think they're slim is both have the potential to get QB1 money. So I think that's going to be pretty tough. It just depends how the rest of the season goes, who the quarterback is next year. I would love to see the Steelers win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson, and with that 1-year deal, he say, all right, that's my cherry on top. That's number 2. I'm going to the Hall of Fame and start the Justin Fields era for real. But I don't think the odds of keeping them both are. That's best case scenario there, Andrew. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree. Having both of them come back, I don't know how much money that's going to require with Fields. Regardless if you're a fan out there and you're not a big Justin Fields fan, either way, if you look at the quarterback play around the league, there's too many teams that need a quarterback. Carolina needs a quarterback. The Raiders need a quarterback. The Giants, the Browns, there's a bunch of teams that are in the market for quarterbacks. And if you look at the 2025 class, you got Cam Ward, maybe Shedeur Sanders, who in my opinion really hasn't played that well this year. Carson Beck's been horrible the past few weeks. Quinn Ewers is dealing with the injury and has been a little up and down recently. There's a lot of questions with the quarterback class. And even if you're not the biggest Justin Fields fan, you can't say that he's not a top 32 quarterback in the NFL. He is. And somebody is going to pay him, maybe not top of the line money, but they're going to bring him in, and in the right system, he's going to be able to come in and be, I think at the very least, the best we've seen of him in Pittsburgh. I think there's still upside for more. I think the Steelers would be open to bringing him back if Russell Wilson is just for 1 year, but to bring both back, I just don't see it with the state of the current NFL quarterback situation. It would cost too much money.
MK199, just a thank you for the show tip. That means so much to us. Thank you so much. We cannot do these shows without you, MK. We can't do the show without anybody. Our Steeler family, our Steel Curtain Network family, so important to us. We would just be guys talking to no one. And at the beginning of this, way back in 2015, it was us talking to no one on Blog Talk Radio. And it has become successful because of all of you out there. So thank you so much. We are blessed to absolutely have you. Brian Browns wants to know if you guys think the special teams will get another block kick or punt this week. My gosh, 3 in a row. Should have been 4, not 4 in a row, but 4 in the last 3 weeks with the whole Minka debacle. But what do you think? Do you think Danny Smith he has them engaged? Do you think they can come home again?
Danny Smith, I tell you what, he's been fired up recently, and every time that one gets called back, it just like it adds to that irritation level a little bit more. I know that it's always been an emphasis of his. I've talked a lot about how I haven't liked the way he's handled the punters and all of that, but one good thing that Danny Smith does do is coverage teams, and not necessarily in the coverage end, but being able to scheme up ways to get through opposing lines and being able to create havoc back toward the punters, kickers, whatever. I think that there's always a great chance, especially when you're going up against a team that we hope is going to be punting a lot against this defense. Only brings more opportunities.
All right, we are going to go ahead and take one more question, and it's the biggie. It's the one I was waiting for it to happen, and you know it's on everybody's mind. I don't even have to bring it up. You know what it is, Andrew. It's Russ Obenstein, big fan of the show, big friend of the show. What's up, guys? Should Steelers try to sign Cooper Kupp? Of course, it would be in a trade scenario. I'm just going to go ahead and say yes, they should. Go ahead, Andrew.
The only reason I'm going to say no, it's not because I don't think the Steelers need to add a receiver, is that I think the Cooper Kupp's value to the Rams is a lot more specific to Sean McVay's scheme than it is anything else. Cooper Kupp is not the most explosive wide receiver, but they have found very creative ways to get him the ball in space. And I'm not sure that an Arthur Smith would be able to do that. It's taken him a while to find a way to get George Pickens involved in the offense like he's needed to be. I'm just not sure that would be the case with Cooper Kupp. I think if you're going for someone of that nature, if you're going to go for an older receiver, go for, say, an Adam Thielen, a guy who's going to be truly one-year rental. Because if you're getting Cooper Kupp, what's the likelihood that the Steelers are bringing Cooper Kupp back long term? Like, I guess I don't think that would be that high of a probability. It's definitely for a 1 year in this window. Let's go try to win a Super Bowl now. I think Adam Thielen, he's been playing incredible ball. He was a 1,000-yard receiver last year, and this offense in Carolina has been bad, but you don't hear him complaining about it. He's a good locker room guy. He's still a solid wide receiver too in this league. A lot of people forget about it because it's Carolina. Nobody pays attention to their games. He's still a solid wide receiver too. And when he gets targeted, the offense in Carolina typically does a little bit better. First week that Andy Dalton comes in, he gets a little bit more involved. And of course, ever since then, the offense has just gone down and down. But that's my 2 cents. If you're going to do it for a 1 year rental, go for someone cheaper like Adam Thielen. It may not seem like a big deal, but he is still a wide receiver too based upon numbers. He was a 1,000-yard receiver last year. He hasn't lost anything in the tank. And if you're not planning on bringing him back long term, I think that would be the wiser investment because the cost is going to be a lot less.
Wow, that's incredible. I love it. I wasn't even thinking with all these names like the Christian Kirks and the Cortland Suttons and, even people bringing up DK Metcalf as well. And of course, Mike Williams, Cooper Kupp. I wasn't even thinking Adam Thielen. That is so interesting there. I said that was going to be the last one, but MK did ask a question and he did give us a tip. So I'm going to go ahead and make this our last question. What does Russ need to do to get into the Hall of Fame? 2 more playoff wins? Or is he already there, Andrew?
I think he's already there. He's won his Super Bowl. He's been to 2. I know that the end of his career has not been like any of us expected, but it's very much easier for a good, maybe not elite, but very good quarterback to get into the Hall of Fame than it is any other position to just be very good and get in. Hines Ward, I would argue, is more elite at his position long term than what Russell Wilson was elite at the quarterback position in terms of time span. But it's going to be easier for Russell Wilson to get in than Hines Ward. I still think Ward has a chance to get in. I hope he gets in. But it just goes to show the quarterback position is treated differently. And I think because of that, he's already in.
All right. So thanks so much. Look, we appreciate each and every one of you. This was absolutely a fantastic time. We appreciate it. Young and Woodburning says much love to Steeler Nation. And it's last time he's going to listen to our show for a while. He's not mad at us. He's going to listen to every episode on Spotify. We appreciate that. And we have the stuff you see on YouTube here. If you're not going to Steel Curtain Network, or checking out Spotify or checking out Apple or anywhere you download your favorite podcast, and you're missing probably about 2/3 of our material. The stuff that we do daily here on YouTube, that's just a little bit of it. That's a small sample. Where we really go ahead and put most of the content is out there in podcasting. I know you don't get to look at Andrew's face when you do that, but you don't have to look at mine and risk your insurance going up because you wreck when you see that. So with that being said, thank you so much. Check us all out. once again, to our Steeler family, we appreciate it. Yeah, Andrew, we got to do this again. I really enjoyed it. I thought you put on a clinic tonight, and thank you so much. But I know that you spend all your time with, as you have coined him, the legendary Jeremy Betts. I still wonder how he got the legendary already. But
I don't know I don't know how he got legendary being an Ohio State fan in general, but that's another topic.
All right. Well, hey, one thing you don't know is I'm one of the producers for the Michigan State Insider podcast here on Fans First Sports Network. I'm not a fan. It's something that I do because everybody accuses me of being Raider fan and Jaguar fan now because that's just extra work I do. So it's I have some interest in that because if Michigan State beats Michigan, there's more downloads.
Oh, yeah. That's not the note we wanted to end on. Everything was going so well up until the last 30 seconds of the show. We had to ruin it. No,
started with Ohio State.
That's true. That's true.
All right. Well, hey, that was just a fun time. I appreciate it. Good luck to your Wolverines this weekend. They're not my Spartans. They're everybody's Spartans. There you go. So for Andrew Wilbar, I don't know what that was. For Andrew Wilbar, my name is Brian Anthony Davis. We love you. We thank you so much. Just when you think you've got all the answers, we keep changing the questions.
Riding on cloud nine.